How capable is the Indian Army? India was unique among British colonies for being the only one to raise a significant expeditionary force that could fight alone in conflicts, and not only with British support. Even Australia and New Zealand had a comparatively short military history. As a result, it has not suffered from the problems most post-colonial countries have with building effective armies. The British Indian Army was not just an internal security force and did already know how to fight high-intensity conventional wars when India gained independence. Except the Sino-Indian War, India has won all its wars. Most today see a great power disparity between India and Pakistan, and that conclusion as predetermined, but it was not so until 1971. Up to that year, Indian defense budgets were similar and there was not such a big difference in population. Pakistani narratives since that catastrophic defeat have portrayed their battle always as a David versus Goliath struggle, but pre-1971 India and Pakistan were actually peers. Indian forces consistently demonstrated valor, initiative and tactical/operational competence throughout these wars, with 1971 being the most extreme example. Pakistan tried to imitate the Israeli attack on the Arab airfields 4 years earlier, but the Indian mod in that short time had already learned from the Arab experience and constructed hardened aircraft shelters that made the attack ineffective. India then coordinated a massive, long-distance invasion of Bangladesh, having previously ordered Soviet amphibious APCs for this purpose. They ran into no logistical challenges, learning from the 1965 war where shell shortage forced them to agree to a ceasefire, and quickly crushed Pakistani forces in the east. In the west, Pakistan attacked with their main force, but were repelled due in large part to a difference in tactical capability. The Battle of Longewala is a noteworthy example, where one Indian company held off an entire Pakistani brigade, losing only 2 troops and destroying or forcing Pakistan to abandon 500 vehicles. They did this through exceptional leadership, combined arms and sound tactical choices. The Indians set up their RCLs at an elevation where they could target the thin top armor of Pakistani tanks, targeted the extra fuel tanks the Pakistani armor had brought with them to sustain a cross-desert campaign, which illuminated Pakistani positions as the battle continued past dusk, and in the morning received precise air support from planes who were flying too high for Pakistani AAA to be effective. At sea, the Indian campaign was even more brilliant. The Indian Navy made short work of the Pakistanis in every engagement, but also conceived a novel operation, using repurposed ship-to-ship missiles. A small contingent of Indian missile boats blew up the oil storage of the Pakistani port of Gwadar. The resulting explosion took out Pakistan's main naval base and much of its fleet. The one black mark on India's military performance was the Sino-Indian War, in which they decisively lost to a Chinese force far from its supply centers and without air cover. However, this defeat was more of a fluke than most imagine. Indian leadership plainly did not expect China to attack, due to both countries' alignment with the Soviet Union and public sympathy with each other. They made no preparations for a defense, and in the Himalayas encountered a veteran force that had perfected its asymmetric way of war through 28 years of victorious campaigns. India rebounded, studied Chinese tactics, adopted countermeasures, and in the 1967 Nathula and Chola clashes achieved a decisive tactical advantage. In both the Indo-Pakistani and Sino-Indian conflicts, the Indian military brass showed themselves to be quick learners. There were deficiencies: poor infiltration defense in 1962, a shell shortage in 1965, but as a rule, whenever Indian generals made a mistake once, they never made it again. They were also successful students of foreign conflicts and technological trends even when they had no direct experience. Their construction of AHSH almost immediately after the Six-Day War